Mike LaFleur is no longer the Jets offensive coordinator. Breaking news just broke by Ian Rappaport. Mike LaFleur is no longer the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets. Let me look this up. Just jumping on, just found out. Let me tell the guys. So just trying to see if we can get any more confirmation on exactly what's going on. Several teams have inquired about Mike LaFleur, and Jets coach Robert Saleh has allowed him to speak to other opportunities. New York Jets need a new offensive coordinator. Sources: the New York Jets and offensive, this is for me and Rappaport again, Mike LaFleur are mutually parting ways. Does that sound mutual to you? Mutual? You think it's mutual? It's his best friend. It's his big brother. I know. They're trying to save grace for him. But still, mutual? Are you kidding me? I mean, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny to say mutual. I mean, I understand the sentiment of trying to spare him embarrassment, but let's be realistic here. We know this is not mutual. We know that Mike LaFleur didn't wake up this morning and say, hey, I want to search for other opportunities because my resume is just glowing right now. Well, Jake Asman, we got to give him credit. You see, that's a source you can trust, right? Because Jake Asman has been screaming all day this was going to happen. He's been screaming it and swearing it. Well, guess what? I know who my new beat guy is. I mean, he's not really a beat guy. He's a YouTube provider, but he kind of works for ESPN, right? So he's more reliable than any Jet guy or any beat reporter I've ever heard. I mean, basically, Ian Rappaport gets it, so you know he's for real. But Jason Asman's been saying this all day. I got to give the man his props. He was 100% on top of this. I've been keeping my eyes out all day on the NFL Network. I've been looking, waiting. I'm told because of Jake. So shout out to him. All credit to Jake Asman. But it is official. Mike LaFleur is no longer our offensive coordinator. They're saying they mutually parted ways. But what we know for sure is that he was asked to leave. He was asked to step down. They said, don't make us fire you. Let us tell everybody that we mutually parted ways to spare and your ego, humility, whatever you want to say. And goodbye, hasta la vista. I'm sure he'll end up in Green Bay or back in San Francisco or even possibly with the Miami Dolphins. 3 most likely places for him to land, given that obviously they love him in San Francisco as far as the coaching staff is concerned. Shanahan loves him. His brother works for Green Bay, so there might be a little bit of an issue there. And then we got, of course, Miami, where has a very close relationship with McDaniel and the coach there. So 3 landing spots for him. Will he be an offensive coordinator? Hard to imagine because none of those teams that I know of need an offensive coordinator. So back to being a pass game coordinator. Who knows? I think he's going to get another opportunity someday. I really do. Because there was some situation going on this year, obviously with the lack of competent quarterbacking, the constant injuries, the decimation of our offensive line. So there's reasons. I mean, excuses. There are excuses. He did not show any indication of greatness, meaning in spite of less than adequate quarterback play, he was able to coach up whoever played quarterback. In spite of injuries to the offensive line, he was able to draw up an offense that was still able to score at least 1 touchdown in the last 12 quarters of the season. He wasn't able to do any of that. So while people could look and say and make excuses for him, we're not giving away what looks to be right now at this point of his coaching career as a brilliant-minded offensive coordinator. Although I will not write off his career completely because he had to deal with that adversity. Um, and it's just amazing because it just doesn't seem that long ago that we were actually worried about him being poached. I mean, talking about our fan base and how we jumped the gun. That's jumping the gun. Yeah, we got him and we got so excited so quickly at the beginning of last year about our coaching staff and the direction of the team that we were already panicking about Mike LaFleur being poached as a head coach. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. Now the question is, there are so many questions that come up right now, right? I mean, my mind's going a million miles per hour because first of all, do they have somebody in mind? Second of all, is it going to be the same scheme? Are we going to completely change our offensive scheme? There's no rule. Robert Saleh is a defensive coach. He brought the defense from San Francisco. Michael LaFleur brought the offensive scheme. There is no guarantee that we're going to stick to the scheme. Although there are arguments to why we should find a coordinator like Kubiak, somebody with experience with some form of the West Coast offense, and that's because we have been drafting players and adding players to our roster specifically looking for guys that can succeed and excel in the West Coast offense. Now, there are plenty of players that fit that bill that will be fine in any offensive system because at the end of the day, it's football, right? But there are some things to consider, like the offensive lineman. We use a outside zone blocking scheme or right now, an outside zone scheme. That's a big dramatic change. Do we want to see that? I don't know. It didn't seem to be doing Becton any good for the few minutes before he got hurt for 2 years when he was trying it. Connor McGovern acted like it was going to be the thing in his career that he needed, and that didn't happen. He's still the same center. He's average to slightly above average. It didn't do him any wonders, though. AVT, though, was excelling. AVT was excelling in this scheme. In second year, he exploded, and he was looking great. The other, Lakin Tomlinson was awful. Is he going to be more awful if we change the blocking scheme, or is he going to be better? His only success came in a system that was an outside blocking scheme. So we have to see what's going to happen there. Of course, all of this is going to be based on who they hire, but don't forget they might specifically hire somebody with a background and experience in the West Coast system. So these are all things to think about. This is the shakeup that I had predicted or was kind of feeling was coming on Sunday when I said that a major shakeup was coming because Woody Johnson refused to talk to the press after the game. And I interpreted that as he didn't come out and defend the staff. Didn't mean to me that Saleh was gone. Didn't mean to me that Joe Douglas was gone, but it meant that changes were coming. Because if changes weren't coming, Woody Johnson would have came out of that game saying, I am happy with what we have. We just need time. We're on the right track. He didn't. He refused to speak about it because he knew he wanted some type of change to occur. And now it has happened. Some people will call Michael LaFleur the sacrificial lamb. There might be a little bit of truth to that, but we'll see how it pans out. If Robert Saleh fails in the next couple of years, a year or 2 years as a coach, we could look back at it and say he was the sacrificial lamb. If the team excels and Robert Saleh goes on to be a very successful coach, then it'll just be, hey, he started off with the wrong offensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator that was young and simply not ready yet. So let's look at some comments, see how people are going. Snowball is already coining the phrase. He is no longer Mike LaFleur. He is Mike Lagon. And Morris is shocked. He says, wow. Did we really fire Mike? Yes, we fired Mike. You can have him back. Jeremy, I'm happy he's out. Wasn't any good in the red zone. Predictable offense. Okay. So he's certainly not going to get an opportunity to learn from his mistakes. We don't got time for that, right? That's like one of the things we could say is we ain't got time for that. We need somebody right now who knows how to do it. Mike LaFleur will go back, I'm sure, to a lower position and figure it out. My brother is saying, wow. Wow, indeed. Wow, indeed. Come join me if you want. You know how to get in here. I don't know if I'm joining later. Kind of could get in trouble for being even on now. Had a little family crisis here. I am going to be on my show tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, and I will try to get onto the Driving Point Productions channel. I don't know. It's so bad that I don't know. I might be on this other channel, and I can't even tell you the name of the channel. Melissa, why don't you put it in the chat? Yeah, he obviously got fired. Wow again. My brother says, "Wow again." It's amazing. It's amazing because it's not shocking, but at the same time, it always is when it actually happens. You know what I mean? We talk about it. He should be fired. Is he going to be fired? Are they going to let Mike LaFleur go? They need to let him go. And then when it happens, even the people that were screaming for it, well, first reaction is, "Really? Like, wow, this actually happened." Wasn't that long ago we were worried about him getting poached? I know, it's amazing, isn't it? Thomas Cahill, what's going on? Let's celebrate. So we know where Thomas was on it. He wanted him gone. They would want him possibly as a passing coordinator. You know, it's very, very incestual, this whole coaching thing. You know, spin Max Dave. Whether it's smart or not, makes any sense or not. It just is. They just give each other jobs and recycle jobs and pass people around. And hey, he was very successful in his work until he became an offensive coordinator. So, you know, obviously we don't think somebody's going to give him an offensive coordinator position. That would be surprising. But it would be also surprising to say, here's a guy who was successful and was rising in his career. And then because he failed at it when he got to a certain level, we're never going to let him back down to the levels where he had success. I'm sure he'll get a passing coordinator job where he's in charge of the architecture of passing, maybe even running. With these guys, you've seen it, right? You've seen a tight end coach suddenly a year later as a middle linebacker coach. Coaching is coaching. But I do think they'll stick to his expertise. I think his expertise is drawing up plays, and he showed some ability to do that. I don't think the playbook was so awful. I don't think they weren't well-designed plays. I think more of the issue was he was not a situational play caller, and maybe he wasn't willing to take the demotion of staying with the team and not calling plays. It's a hard pill for coaches to swallow, and a lot of them want to go and kind of reset and start over again somewhere else before they stay with the same team and take that kind of demotion. So my concern is a good OC won't come because of the question mark at quarterback. That is the challenge. That is the challenge. So if you're an established offensive coordinator, you might say, well, why would I want to go to the Jets? I'm concerned about the fact that they don't have a quarterback. But we remember that they could be a lot more telling in interviews. They sign non-disclosure agreements. So, they will share plans with whoever they interview. But you're right. Early on, it's going to be hard because we didn't even start the process. We're not even touching players or allowed to touch players yet. So how can you guarantee anything? So it's interesting timing. But I think they did the timing because they see a lot of shifting happening right now. A lot of coaches being fired, a lot of shuffling around, and they might think there's an opportunity to grab somebody. Also, don't forget, Robert Saleh is super popular. Even with the question at quarterback, the New York Jets appear to be on the rise. Tons of talent on that offense and defense. Might not be the most unattractive place for a coach to go. I've seen coaches and I'm not saying these are guys we should pursue yet, but I was already noticing guys. The offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders was fired. That confused me. I don't know anything about him. They'd have to do research, but it confused me because when I think of the Washington Commanders and what needed to change there, it wasn't really the offensive coordinator. I mean, the guy was working with Heineke as his quarterback, and who did they give him? They give him the guy from Indianapolis, from Philly, Carl Wentz. I mean, he didn't exactly have a great quarterback to work with, and I didn't consider Washington that bad of a team, considering they don't have a quarterback. And their defense isn't as elite as the Jets' defense, for example. I didn't expect much from Washington. They just blew out Dallas. So I don't know. There's like what I'm saying is when you see these coaches being hired, coaches being fired. There's all kinds of spots, and it's like a game of musical chairs. And maybe the Jets wanted to get into the game of musical chairs before it was too late. I hope he doesn't go to New England. You don't want him back in the Bay. Okay, that's interesting. I thought he was popular in San Francisco, but maybe he's not. So long, LaFleur. That's right. So it doesn't look like people are that broken up. Legit excuses. I think they were pretty legit excuses, but still didn't prove to be the guy who can overcome. Didn't prove to be the guy that can overcome. It's not strong in the red zone. And let me tell you something. That's a test, right? That's the toughest part of the field to call plays and design plays because it's the most crowded part of the field. So, Jeremy, what's the strategy now? New offense means we need to consider quarterback pickup in free agency and pairing with offensive coordinator they are familiar with. How does this play out in your opinion? Going to be crazy. Chris, man, it's tough. It's rough. I haven't lived through so many of these. I don't think anybody has. I've been watching for 40 years, but like when it's not, with the Jets, for so many years with the Jets, it was the head coach fired at this point of the season. And now we're a growing team going in the right direction, but we had a catastrophic end to the year, into the season, in an overall growth season where we still did grow. We were just overachieving and then we underachieved. So it makes it difficult. It's really hard. And I've had no time to put this together in my brain, which is really surprising because we kind of knew this might come, but I never really took the time to actually think about it. I think one of the things we might do is we might interview. We definitely want someone experienced, so we might be looking for somebody who wants to come back for a couple of years. Maybe somebody who was out of the game as a coach and is interested in just coming back as an assistant head coach / offensive coordinator, and say, look at this defense that Robert Saleh's building. They got some good pieces. Let me help get a Lombardi trophy, and let me do it for a New York football team and put myself in legendary status. I think it's obvious they were going to be looking to replace that position, I would imagine, and that's going to happen way before we resolve quarterback. So maybe that's part of the interview process. Maybe a senior guy is part of the decision-making and part of the team that's going to help decide what makes sense for the team. But it's really hard to imagine going after a quarterback before you know what system you're going to play. And unless they have somebody specifically in mind, it's hard to hire someone and say, you're doing the Shanahan version of the West Coast offense. You can't just tell anybody that. So who you hire, if we have different candidates, they might have different philosophies and how they coach and how they call plays and what their offense looks like. Now, again, there might be a plan in place. They might know we have a list of 5 guys that we're going to target, and all 5 of them are West Coast minded guys, West Coast offense minded guys, it's a possibility. But I do think my early opinion right now, and I might be corrected. I don't have my guys with me. I usually have guys with me, people who know, done this, geeky kind of guys named Dom C, who will whisper in my ear or tell me what's going on. But I'm going to trust myself in saying I think we're going to look for experienced offensive coordinator and then allow that experience to be part of the team, the hiring team, or the not really hiring, but the acquiring team of our future quarterback. So you'll have Robert Saleh, whoever we hire as coordinator, and Joe Douglas as a team trying to figure out the quarterback position. That's my best guess. Again, I don't know if I'll tell you who's dancing right now. Who's dancing? Denzel Mims. He's like, he's probably thinking, get this West Coast offense thing out of here and just go to a regular freaking offense without the million different routes. And you have to know how to do this and that. And just let me run routes and just let me post and let me slant and just throw me the ball because I'm 6'4" and I run a 4.4 and I I will explode if you just give me the opportunity. I wouldn't be shocked if he's excited. I wouldn't be shocked if Elijah Moore is not excited. For whatever reason, Mike LaFleur was not able to feature Elijah Moore in the offense. He was just not able to utilize him. He wasn't able to get him carries. And when we watched all 22 film, it appeared that Elijah Moore was open a lot. It appeared that he was open a lot. It appears when you watch him and you watch him on film, he's getting open quickly. He's running routes. He's making sharp cuts. They're crisp. He's a very crisp route runner, and it's confusing. Now, part of it could be the quarterback, but again, it's the offensive coordinator's job to figure that out. How do you work Elijah Moore into the progression? And it was confusing because he started playing the slot more, and usually that's the easiest wide receiver position to get the ball to. And yet they couldn't do it. So, look, maybe something was broken with Mike LaFleur. I don't know. We're going to find out. Look, changing coordinators is not going to be the one and all answer. We all know that. We need there's three things we needed. And I'd say that we handled right now. The only thing we dealt with is with number 3, because for all we know, good quarterback, good offensive line, Mike LaFleur may have been fine. We dealt with the number 3 thing. The number 1 thing and number 2 thing we could debate all day. Some people are it's like chicken and the egg. Offensive line, quarterback, offensive line. And the reason we say that is because it's hard for any quarterback to play well and how, and they have a ceiling of how well they can play if they don't have any protection. Now, I do think aside from needing to draft another tackle, work out what we're going to do at center, I don't think the offensive line situation is broken based on just pure personnel. I think it's obvious that we were hit with injuries. And I do think there are some potential things going on with our offensive line we could be excited about. The potential return of Mekhi Becton, and I say potential, we cannot count on it, but we could be excited about the potential return of Mekhi Becton. We could be excited that he might be able to return. We could be excited that he looks great. It looks like he's in shape and ready to play. We could be excited about that because we all saw his rookie year what his ceiling is and how competent he can be if he can stay healthy and stay fit. So would I plan for that? No. But he's on the roster, and there's a possibility he's going to come into camp and be the best offensive tackle we have. So, and there's no argument to that fact. So it's there. He's there. Max Mitchell, we hope, is ready to go. Right? Again, I'm not getting a lot of word on that. I don't know. But Max Mitchell could start off the rest of his career like year 2, year 3 as a swing tackle. Might be, but ready to start. Ready to start. He proved it when he was playing. Ready to go if we need him to be in there. And then Dwayne Brown, we don't know if he's going to return. He's going to get some surgeries. They're going to assess that. We clearly need to draft a tackle. Clearly. And I think it has to be that first round pick. It could be the second round pick. It depends if they have somebody they love that they think is going to be there in the second round. But in my opinion, we need to draft a tackle that's ready to play. This way, our worst case scenario will be having to move AVT to tackle and the guy we draft. That's if everything else goes wrong. Dwayne Brown doesn't come back. Max Mitchell is not able to play, and Becton, for a 3rd year in a row, somehow gets hurt again, right? But you would think one of those things is going to work out, and I think both. I think Max Mitchell will come back. I think Becton will come back. I think we're going to start camp with a new draft pick, and we're going to be sitting there saying, okay, who's going to be on the bench? They're all going to compete, and I think if Becton stays healthy, that's a big if, I know. It'll be him and whoever we draft. If he can't stay healthy, if he's out of shape, if he just isn't the same guy after missing 2 years, then you got Max Mitchell and you got Becton and you got the new draft pick. And then, of course, you always have AVT as a guy who can come in. So I think the offensive line is going to be fine. I don't think Joe Douglas is going to ignore it. I don't think anybody that's been following the Jets, who's kind of in the know, that knows what's going on, would ever accuse Joe Douglas of ignoring the offensive line. There are some people that say he didn't do enough, but if you look at the moves, it's just not true. The evidence shows that Joe Douglas has addressed this offensive line over and over again. We've just had horrendously bad luck. Excuses, like just injuries. beyond anything I've ever seen as a fan to one position. So I think the offensive line is going to work itself out. And I think that 90% of the fan base is going to say one thing. If you want to see a change in offense, what's really going to lead to touchdowns? Okay, if you didn't like the coordinator, we got the coordinator. He still needs the quarterback. Some of you want to believe that it could still be Zach Wilson. I don't blame you for wanting to believe that. If Zach Wilson developed into a premier franchise quarterback, even after this 2-year start, if that was to happen, I'm not saying it will. I'm not a lunatic because it doesn't look very likely. But if it was to happen, if that was to happen, that's the best thing for our organization. Nothing better can come out of it because we're forced paying him anyway, and that would be free. But the problem is that we can't wait to see if that's the case. We can't go into the next season wondering if Zach's going to be that guy. Regardless, we have to do something. We have to do something. So now I want to remind you, you might not be a Becton fan. But saying he needs to go does not make sense because we'd have to take the cap hit anyway. He signed his first round pick thing. He has his bonus money. It doesn't save us much to cut him. It doesn't cost us anything. There's no reason. Why would you let go of a guy who might potentially come back and be a Pro Bowl tackle? It makes no sense. And there's nobody smart enough out there, not you, not me. None of us are smart enough to say that Becton can't be an all-pro tackle or a Pro Bowl tackle. There's no way you know that because he played an elite level. And if he stays healthy, you don't know because it's been 2 years, so you don't know. You have no idea what he was going to develop into if he wasn't hurt. So cutting Becton makes no sense. It's just makes no sense. The locker room likes him. He's friends with AVT. He's friends with Max Mitchell. They're friends. They get along. They're close. Breece Hall gets along with them. He's not a detriment in the locker room. He doesn't cost us more or less if he's with the team or not with the team. It doesn't make sense. Why would you stop a guy from – it's like last year with Mims. We should cut him. Why? Why? He doesn't cost you anything. You keep him there and you find out if he has any value for the team. So I got a super chat from Thomas Cahill. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate the super chat. It started with mishandling Mims, then Elijah Moore, the collapse of Zach, no running game at all. See ya. I guess so. Look, you're not going to see me running to defend them. You know what I mean? I was torn a little bit because I know that there were factors. I'm not going to sit there and say he had the perfect situation and blew it. It wasn't like Norv Turner when he went to the Chargers. It wasn't like how do you go there and how do you not win with that team? It was not that kind of situation. It wasn't the situation of the last 3 coaches that coached for the Dallas Cowboys where you say, how could you go with that roster? There's clearly no excuses. I can't do that. But I can also say there's clearly evidence that he was not able to overcome adversity. And that's what Robert Saleh always talks about. How do we deal with adversity? Well, Mike LaFleur didn't deal with adversity. He collapsed. He folded. He didn't have it. He didn't have the ability to rise up and do anything. None of us were saying that he had to score 30 points a game with a decimated offensive line and poor quarterback play. You needed to score a touchdown, though. You couldn't score you can't tell me 3 points against New England. You can't tell me 3 games in a row to end the season with the playoffs on the line. For 2 of them, no touchdowns. One of them against a defense like Seattle, a defense like Jacksonville, who did not play well against other teams. It can't be overlooked. It can't be overlooked. I'm not saying it would have been easy. I'm not saying he had all the players for it. And it's just, I mean, you got to find a way. You got to find a way. Thanks for the super chat, Thomas. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, there were problems. His situational pass calling was atrocious. And we called it out. I mean, to the point where it was predictable. For those of you who are on Green Bean's channel, who sat with Green Bean and I during the games, we called it out. Like against Minnesota, every single drive, when we got to the 20-yard line, the first play he would do is a trick play. Some stupid sweep type play, some ridiculous play that takes forever to develop behind the line of scrimmage, get cutesy. And every time, 4 drives in a row, it stalled the drive. And everyone's going to say, well, how could one play stall the drive? Momentum. Momentum. We were literally cruising down the field, running the ball, slants, everything going well. Moving the ball, everything going great. We get to the 19, 18-yard line, first down. And then, boom, the first play, we go backwards, 2nd and 14. And then it was backward. And then it was just downhill from there. And it was 4 drives in a row. By the second drive, the second time it happened, me and Green Bean were furious. And we were yelling and begging for him to stop. We were like, just keep it simple. Keep doing what's working. Don't get fancy. And for the next 2 drives, he did it anyway. He did it while we were screaming for him not to. And we kept watching it happen again and again. And I guess deep down, I knew. That was when I lost it for LaFleur. That was when I really knew. It wasn't even the end zone. It wasn't even all that. For me, it was the 4 drives where on 1st and 10, inside the 20-yard line, he decided to do some stupid trick play. And just to rub salt in the wound, just to show how clueless he was. And could not read the temperature of the room. When we played Jacksonville, we got the ball. Where did we start? The 17, 16-yard line. Quinnen Williams causes the fumble, right? What do you do when you get a turnover like that in that spot? What do you do? The first thing, you turn around, you bring in your offense, and what do? Slant in the end zone. Corner end zone pass. Garrett Wilson, touchdown. That's what you do. They're down. They're depleted. They're walking off the field. The defense suddenly went from not ready to, because they're watching their offense, and suddenly they have to run onto the field. You bring your offense out, and you take a shot at the end zone. Standard vanilla football, nothing fancy. Who's it going to be? Are you going to have Garrett to the corner? Are you going to have Elijah come across the field? We've seen that play. But that's what you call it. Simple situational football. What does he do? He brings out Streveler as a wide receiver. The second he did that, we knew we were screwed. Go back to Green Bean Jets fan. Go to his channel. Watch the Jacksonville Jets watch party. The reaction show. Watch party. Watch the reaction show. It's in the first 20 minutes of the video when the game starts. Watch what me and Green Bean say when the Jets get that turnover from Quinnen and the offense comes to the field. The first thing we said is, are you kidding me? When we saw Streveler come onto that field and not even line up in the Wildcat, not as a quarterback, as a wide receiver, and nothing happened. What? Oh, he's going to set up as a decoy for later. Well, that decoy never happened. He never came back in as a wide receiver in that game that I know of. It never panned out. Why would you script? You had all week to script that game. Well, you didn't. You had 5 days, but it's the biggest game of the year. Needing to win that game. You come out and your first scripted play is to bring Streveler out as your wide receiver and do some kind of trickery. After that Minnesota game, you still didn't learn? And that makes me concerned for Robert Saleh too, people, because why didn't Robert Saleh say enough? Enough of this cutesy crap. This is an NFL football team. Stop playing games. Stop showing how big your Rubik's Cube is and how fast you can get one side, and just call a normal play. And he didn't do that. So that's why he doesn't have a job, folks. And they could say that they parted ways mutually. And the more I talk, the more I want to make it very clear. They could use those words, and not a single Jet fan buys it. There's no Jet fan walking around going, well, they mutually parted ways. I guess LaFleur was just as excited to find a new opportunity as we were to get rid of him. No. Oh, I mean, God, their worry and their focus on how they look, their perception is getting disgusting. Let's not lie. He was fired. Mike LaFleur was fired. It wasn't a mutual agreement. There was no way he was walking out of that office with a job if he didn't agree. The conversation was simple. Maybe they offered him a lower ranking position. And they probably said, we don't blame you if you don't take it, because no one ever does that. That's the most humiliating thing in the world. The best thing to do is let us say that we parted ways mutually, and you'll get yourself another job and start over and rebuild. and we wish you the best of luck, and we love you because you're Robert Sala's little brother, practically, and that's it. But he didn't have a choice. Mutually agreed, man. That's the most overused thing in the world. Happens in every field, not just in football, all the time. We've decided to part ways mutually. No. Nope. Never happens. Never happens. Either somebody finds a new job and leaves, or they're fired because it's either the team saying goodbye or the person saying goodbye. It's not both of them at the same time saying goodbye. Maybe that's happened once or twice in history. I don't know. But that's not what happened here, people. What better job? Mike LaFleur decided to stop being the offensive coordinator to take a assistant coach of wide receivers and route or passing cord. Like, no, we don't believe you did that. You were fired. By the way, I will be on tonight. The Wacky Wednesday show is on its normal time with my co-host and other guests. But obviously you understand I had to jump on now and address this situation when something like this happens. Obviously we got to talk about it, right? But you know, I mean, look, none of us know everything. I see people when they fight in the chat. I got to tell you guys, I don't know anything. You guys don't know anything. We just have opinions. Okay. We don't know who should really be cut. If the team doesn't cut a guy, then we don't know. There's a reason they're not cutting them. They know more than we do. They're at the practices. This is their living. We're some guys. We're all the same. We watch the beer and we eat the pizza. And we watch the games and we're not. None of us. Everybody thinks they're the genius, right? All the Jeff fans. You go in, and then there's the family. You go into that one group, and there's the alpha guy. This is our genius. This is the one that tells everybody else how it is. Let me tell you something. None of us really know. But there are a lot of good people who are really good at being rational and making you think. And I'm not going to say me. Green Bean, really great at that. Really great at presenting different ideas to think about. Frankie, really good at giving facts beyond our emotion. Frankie does that really well. Dom C does that for me. A little different than Frankie. They're two different kind of guys. Frankie does it through data. Dom C does it through film. Frankie's doing a little bit more film. Dom looks at data. Obviously, there's overlap. But doesn't make them know everything. Doesn't mean they know who should be fired, who should not be fired. Right? Matt O'Leary, man, my hero. Amazing at staying calm and rational and having and thinking and talking about things that we know and keeping it even keel. I mean, these guys, Ryan, everybody's great at it, but nobody knows better than the coaching staff. I mean, sometimes it feels like we do because we'll say something forever. We're screaming it and yelling it, and then it finally happens. It's like, you see, I told you. But you have to understand, if 50% of people are on one side of the fence yelling something and 50% are on the opposite side yelling something, there's a 50% chance that you're going to be right. And it doesn't mean it's because you knew. It means because there was a 50% chance of you being right. Now, if you're right every time, right? We're now with the chat, we're there's receipts. We can go back and we can look. If you're right every time, if you're right 6 times in a row, then you could say, hey, Jeremy, you're saying that I didn't know what I was talking about, and there was a 50% chance, but I was right 6 times in a row. So maybe if that's happened in your life, if you could honestly say, I mean, think back to all your takes. Did you think Adam Gase was good when we hired him? Did you like Sam Darnold when we picked him? Did you like Zach when we picked him? Did you like Becton when we selected him? Did you truly like the Sauce Gardner pick? Like, go back to all of those things and be really honest. I think when you look at all those different things over time, you'll see that you're probably around 50%. 50%. You're probably right half the time and you're probably wrong half the time. And that's okay. Because we don't know about a lot of things. We don't know. Technically, Mike LaFleur could go out and be a superstar offensive coordinator one day. It could happen. It really could. Because people grow. This is not some magical job that's different than jobs in the real world. It's like every other job. You fix your mistakes, you get better. he starts over again, he might get better. He might never learn and might never get better. But none of us know, right? There's plenty of coaches that the first time they try to be a coach didn't work so well, didn't go so well. Then later in their life, they were very successful. So you never really know for sure. Is it official? Yes. It's official now. It's official now. Once Tom Rappaport comes out with something, it's official. It was also on ESPN. Forget West Coast, bring in the offense that stretches the field. I'm going to scroll down. I want to say hello to people. Thanks for being here. Ben Jalouse and Micro Fox and Ohio Jet Fan is here. And there's so many of you. They already have someone in mind. We just have to wait. I agree. I agree that they probably have someone in mind. They didn't just do this blindly. They have a plan. They always do. There's someone that they liked. That's what they've been spent. And probably not just the last few days, even before the last game of the season, they had a list. You know what? They probably had a list of people of what senior coaches can we bring in to help and replace Knapp. And now that plan is shifted to that same list is who's going to be the offensive coordinator. That's what I would guess. So my wife's asked me to come down and look at something. Those of you know, unfortunately, we lost my dog last night. And the fact that she's yelling at me to come down and look at something means I think somebody sent something to us. So I'll go check that out in between shows, but she doesn't know that I'm live right now. So, but that's why I'm distracted. Sorry. I said we create the East Coast offense. I think the East Coast offense is pound the ball, run the ball, and play hard defense. Yeah, I think that we're all shocked. I don't know if we're shocked. Some of us are shocked. Some of us are surprised. I think it's always a surprise when it actually happens, though. I really do. It's really hard to, like, the moment it happens, it's like, oh my God, it really happened. Someone is spitting facts on Becton. I know, right? Thank you. I know. Either people love him and say he's going to be amazing, which I don't agree with. I'm like, how could you say that? He's missed 2 seasons. We don't know if he's going to be amazing. And then other people are saying, get rid of him. And I'm like, what? Like, the guy got hurt. And then everybody's a doctor. Well, he got hurt because he was overweight. Shut up. I mean, it's so stupid. He got hurt because he has bad luck. Well, the first time somebody rolled on his knee, and we all know who that is, Van Rotten. And the second time he was playing a different position, moving and shifting, and we saw the injury. It wasn't about weight. He didn't go down untouched. Or he might have. But it's just bad luck. And we're going to, guess what? It cost us nothing. It cost nothing to find out if Mekhi Becton's going to come back. It cost us absolutely nothing. We have him on the roster. If we really wanted to, we can cut him post June 1st if he looks like crap. And that would save us money. So instead of racing to cut him, just let Becton be. Let him come into camp. What if he dominates camp? What are you going to say then? Are you going to admit it later on? Are you going to say, I was wrong? I was one of those guys saying to cut him. And I am coming and I'm saying that I was wrong. But, guys, we should never cut guys that cost us nothing to keep. You know what I mean? It's like 0% interest on a loan, right? We never pay that back until you pay it as slowly as they ask for it, right? You don't pay it all back at once. $5,000 interest-free loan. You could pay it $100 a month for 50 months. That's what you do. And you hold the rest of the money in the bank. Why? An emergency? Because it makes money for you in the bank. You get paid interest on it. It's the same thinking. Becton cost us nothing now. Why would we cut him? Then he gets picked up by another team, and he stays healthy, and he's a star. How stupid would that be? You hold on to him. You hold on to him until you have to decide who's on your 53. And then when you're deciding who's on your 53, if he doesn't look good, if he's overweight, if he's out of shape, if he's not the guy, you don't want him on the team, he's a distraction, you don't like him, whatever reason, then you cut him. Because now there's a cost to keeping him. 53. We can only keep 53. You don't want to waste a roster spot on him if he's not the guy. Great. But until the day comes where we have to cut down to 53, why would you cut Becton? He's not a distraction. They like him in the locker room. There's no reason to cut him. It makes absolutely no sense. If you don't like Becton and you want him cut, wait till post-June. And if he doesn't make the team, then he is. But if you're rooting for it to happen, that means you want him to not do well, which doesn't make sense because that hurts the Jets. As a Jet fan, you should hope that you're wrong. You should be saying, I hope I'm wrong about Becton. I hope he turns out to be an all-pro offensive lineman. Because is it personal? Do you not like him personally? We're Jet fans. I don't care how you feel about a player. We should root for them to be amazing because we want to win. And if Becton comes back amazing, that's great for us. So can we stop the nonsense about we should cut this guy? No, you should never cut somebody where it doesn't benefit you at all, unless that person's a distraction, unless you're sending a message. What message are you going to send about Becton? If you get hurt a second time, come to the facility in great shape and lose weight and are rehabbing and doing everything you can to get healthy, we're going to cut you for no reason. That's not a good message. That's the message of an angry Jet fan who's convinced he's a bust, doesn't want to give another chance, and is anxious to get that little bit of hate out on him. Cut him. Stupid. Sorry, it doesn't make sense. June 2nd, June 1st, when it's time to when we are making the decision about who's on the final 53, when that day comes, forget it, post-June, after June, in the summer, cut him. If he stinks, cut him. If he gets hurt already, it doesn't matter. He's on the IR and doesn't even cost you the roster spot. Fine. But it makes no sense. He's in year 4 of his rookie deal. It makes no sense. Makes no sense. Come on, we got to be sensible. You guys are smarter than that, especially New York Jets fan 4. I know you're smarter than that. You're too smart for that. Doesn't cost anything to keep him. You don't cut him. You know that. All these new coaches all at once was a bad idea. At least one was going to bust. Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to look at it, especially all inexperienced rookie coaches. But I think, again, Knapp was supposed to be the guy. He was supposed to be that veteran in the locker room, that older guy. He's supposed to be like the dad for all those guys. He just wasn't there. So what can you do? Not replacing him was interesting. I don't know what the thinking behind not replacing him was. It's not disrespectful. It's a horrible tragedy. I'm not saying do it the next day, but if a couple of weeks go by, a few weeks, a month, got to replace the guy, right? I mean, that's what you do. You honor his position and the importance of the position you hired him for by hiring somebody else. When you don't hire somebody else, you're acting like his position didn't even matter, that it was irrelevant. And that's another mistake by our young organization, our management. It's a mistake. Yeah. I don't know if he had a choice in it, but respect to him as long as and I assume he's going to go along with it and be okay with it. I was nervous that he wasn't going to be able to do it. So I'm glad that he is, obviously when he speaks, I don't know if he has, maybe while I'm talking, it's going to be very soon that Saleh is going to talk to the press. And I already know what's going to happen. I would rather have my brother do the invitation. I guess he didn't have time to come in, but it's going to be something like, we decided it was best for Michael and best for us to move on. And I'm sure, I know, and he's going to say this, by the way, Michael's going to do great. Michael's going to be a star one day. The timing is just off right now. But he's going to be, he's not kicking and screaming and yelling and threatening to quit, right? So he's accepting it. The Jets will mess this up somehow. That's positive thinking. But you know what? Who can argue anymore with negativity? Who could argue? You sound like Larry David when you do that voice. Which one? If I do this one, the Larry David voice, I do this. Like, what are you talking about? There is a God. So you can see there are people that are very, very, very happy. Oh, embrace my David. What does he say? Let me see. I'm a big fan of Larry David too. I watch Curb Your Enthusiasm. So I could do the pretty. Now I'm trying. I can't do it, but I don't have to try, right? I just got to be a Jewish guy, and I'll remind everybody of Larry David. What? No? Austin Powers. It was a nice way to say you're fired. Exactly, Austin Powers. And by the way, Austin Powers, for a long time, I thought you were just a fictional character. So I want to apologize for that, not taking you seriously, for the real live, thoughtful thinker that you are. And I also want to show that I'm really appreciate and I'm excited about the fact that the Austin Powers is a Jet fan. It's good to know. Ohio just vote. You're also originally from Ohio. So we got Ohioans in here. How do you people who grow up in not New York become Jet fans is beyond me. It's amazing. Kubiak's the way to go for me. So, interesting thing about Kubiak and why I like him. West Coast offense, more to the source though, right? Not filtered by the sun. West Coast offense from the father. The father. Like Grandpa Shanahan. Look, wouldn't be bad. A lot of the schemes would be the same, but it would be also maybe go back to a more traditional West Coast offense, which I'm not against. I'm not against the scheme, man. It's really not that. It's really not that. It was the situational call playing by a mile. But we definitely, it's not just that, though. We also need to leverage our players. We just simply were not getting enough out of our stars. Like even Garrett Wilson, there was a 6-7 game a streak where he was invisible. Invisible. Garrett Wilson. And you saw what he could do. Just throw him the ball, for the love of God. So, we must be up to the who's always right, because Joseph is always right. So what say you then? Sean Payton, head coach. Wow. I doubt that he would do it, though. Coaches rarely take a demotion like that. And remember, Sean Payton won 1 Super Bowl with Drew Brees as his quarterback. He's not God. He's not God. He won 1 Super Bowl in many years with a long Drew Brees career. I'm not taking it away from him. It's impressive. Anybody who wins a Super Bowl, it's an amazing accomplishment. But it's 1 Super Bowl. There's other coaches who have won Super Bowls also, 1 Super Bowl, and then they go to a place they're there for a year or two and they get fired. Just saying. But I'm not going to lie, he did a great job. Signed Carr, right? New offensive coordinator, new quarterback, new offense. Lots of weapons. Lots of weapons. My brother don't like Carr, though. I'm going to tell you that right now. My brother does not like Carr because my brother's too focused on this season. And because all the arguments he made, I said, yeah, all the arguments you're making is based on this past season with Josh McDaniels, the worst head coach ever. Look at Derek Carr for the last 4 years before last season. And I'm not saying he's the guy. I'm still undecided. I don't know. I have positives and negatives about him. I'm kind of swishy. I'm in the middle on it. But I will at least say DVOA clearly and solidly has him ranked with good data as a top 10 quarterback for a good 4 years in a row before this season. That's something we can't argue. But I understand the negatives. The negatives are very clear. The guy throws a lot of interceptions. There's some spells of inaccuracy and inconsistency. And then there are spells where he looks really good. So it's, But to Greenbean's argument, has Derek Carr ever had a defense? And secondly, has Derek Carr ever had a stable situation where the coach wasn't changing every year? So that's one of the things we'd have to convince Derek Carr. Okay, we got a new coordinator. We're going to give him a good 3 years. And Saleh's here for a while. So you have a stable environment that's going to stay the same for a few years. Who are we going to bring in to hold his hand? I don't know, man. I don't know if it's about Zach anymore anyway. I really don't. You got off his case because of me. Now I have people saying that I got people off Michael LaFleur's case. Hey, dude, come on. You know that I had a problem with LaFleur's play calling. I just wasn't screaming for his job because I don't like to go right. I don't like to go 0 to 100. I don't like to go, okay, this is our coach. I don't like what he's doing. Fire him. I just like to go a little slower than that, only because I think that you have to remember that everything we do as an organization, every decision we make impacts future hiring. When people scream that they want proven winners, you want a guy like Sean Payton, you want this, you want that. Remember, everything we do, they know. Everything we do, they know about. They're seeing that. So remember, if you're the guy that can have any job he wants, if you have 6 people pursuing you, and you look, you're going to look. And if you look at a team that just, fire the coach, toxic fans, God, die, I hope you die, yelling at your wife in the stands, your husband's a piece of shit. I mean, we got to think about that. Kind of affects people's decision whether or not they want to work here. These are human beings. You got to remember, they're human beings. They're people like you. They go home. They care. They do care. They'll pretend they don't. They care. If people throw things at you when you're walking into your car after a game, if people scream and call you a piece of crap, you're not going to care? Of course you're going to care. If I call one of you out or one of you in the chat calls the other one a bum, you're going to start writing in capitals. You're going to care so much. Can you imagine what these guys feel like? Of course they care. But they're human beings. And it's their job, and they do their job the best they can. If they're not good enough, they're not good enough. But look, they made a decision that he needed to go. They took some time. They talked it over. They went over some things, and they saw what we've been yelling all year. That's what happened. They saw it. They looked on paper, and they said, oh, yeah, look at that. Can't score in the red zone. Oh, yeah, look at that. Made the same mistakes over and over again. Oh, yeah, look at that. He has no instinct for the game. Right now, at this point of his life, he's, it's like there's this obsession with because a young coach comes into the league and does well. So that means all of a sudden that's the new thing. We're going to have young coaches and they're going to do well. And it's like, it's not true. You can't break a formula that's worked for 100 years because of an outlier. So just because a couple of young hotshot coaches are really good doesn't mean that that's the new thing and that's what you have to do. For years, experience matters. For years. It matters to hire experienced, competent people. It's mattered for years. You can't just throw that out because, a young buck coach won a Super Bowl. It doesn't matter. That doesn't mean you run and find some young coach. That doesn't suddenly change 100 years of what we know and understand. It's called an outlier. It's not the norm. It's not what normally happens. So you don't do it. I mean, now every NFL team is going to draft a quarterback in the 7th round and throw him into the game and hope he's a star like Brock Purdy or plays like Brock. No, it's called an outlier. In most cases, it's not going to work. In most cases, you don't want to end up having to start your 7th round draft pick for a quarterback. In most cases, that's not the way it's going to go. Thank you, Pete. I appreciate that. Yeah, well, they're not going to get rid of Saleh. That would have just happened in that meeting. That was the biggest opportunity for Robert Saleh to leave, right? Like we're getting rid of Mike LaFleur. No, you're not. Mike LaFleur is staying with me. Well, then you're both fired. If it didn't happen and Mike and Saleh agreed, and right now Saleh's the head coach, then he's the head coach. He's not going anywhere. You just saw today what happened. That was the shakedown. We got a new offensive coordinator, and now we're getting a new quarterback. So, thank you. He was a good boy. He was. Let's see. John Harbaugh to Denver. Did that happen yet? Is that official? I know that it could happen. But when you start putting things like that in the chat, I'll start to believe you because it's not far-fetched. You lived in Albany first when I became a fan. You see, that's what it is. You become a fan when you live in New York, you move and you stay a fan. But then the question comes, why did you start a fan? By the way, guys, we're going to have a bunch of people on the show tonight to react to this. I don't know which ones, but I know my guys, they'll be here. We know that Watsuke will be here to react. And you guys all know he knows how to rant, right? So we'll get his reaction. I'm hoping Gunny will come, and maybe we get Dom C in here. Maybe we even get Buffalo. So there'll be some guys here. There'll be some guys, and we'll get them in, and you'll get to see them, what they have to say about this rather than just me. But I appreciate that everybody that's in here. Please remember to, if you have not already, and you like this and you want more, curious about this bald guy and these other people that come onto his channel, just hit that subscribe button. And look, man, I'm here all the time. Raiders are trading him for a reason. You must be talking about Derek Carr. When they're not really trading him, they're going to cut him. But you know what, Super Leroy, if you want to know what the reason is that Derek Carr is truly being cut, I'll start with this. $40 million. That's how much they save if they cut him by March 15th. So remember, that's the first reason. I believe the second reason is TOMBRADY, or an alternate plan. Now, yes, that's concerning because why are they looking elsewhere? But it's not like it's not like they're looking to cut Derek Carr for anybody. And he's not an expensive quarterback, right? It's not like he has a good, friendly $25 million a year deal and they, are looking to just start somebody off the bench or find someone and worry about it. I promise you, I don't know if it's going to come to fruition. They might not get their guy, but they have a plan. And their plan is to dump his $40 million and put that money elsewhere. And would I be surprised if it was Tom Brady? No, not at all. Vegas makes a lot of sense for him. A lot of sense. And then the Raiders before, it's weird. You could argue all you want. You want a guy who's 45, but if he has anything left in the tank, he's the guy. He did it for Tampa. He's the guy who can come in and take the Raiders and right away make them a Super Bowl team. It's if he has anything left in the tank. They certainly have weapons for him. Waller will be his Gronk. Devontae will be his Randy Moss, I want to say, or his number one receiver, and then that other guy, what's his name, Renfro, will be his Edelman. He's got his weapons. It's like they have what he needs to succeed. Someone said we're all bums. I wonder what that's about. Okay, let's go. Sean Bennett's around. What's up? Brian J. Wildwave. Everybody's here. I just want to say hello to a lot of you guys. Tony Alexio comes in. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. I appreciate it. Can we steal Daniel Jones? Gable turned him into a superstar. No, and I'll tell you why we can't steal him. Because we're not going to offer him any more money than the Giants would. I think the Giants are actually in better cap situation. And why in the world would he come to us after the year he just had with that coach? Think about it. This coach is making him a player. This coach is literally saving his career. So I don't see any realistic situation where Daniel Jones leads the New York Giants. And unless the New York Giants don't want him, but what options do they have? I think they invested a lot in him last year. They put a lot of work into him. They got results. He played well. I think that Daniel Jones will be a New York Giant for many years to come. This is not going to be a popular take, but I'll put it up there. And Tony, again, I want to thank you for the super chat, by the way, brother. Thanks so much again. It's not going to be a popular take, but it would be the best thing for our organization if it happened. Not if it happened and he stunk, but if I'm just saying, guys, and I don't want everybody to freak out because I'm not saying this is what we should do, but I'm saying if somehow it ended up that, they bring in like a Gary Minshew, they bring in a lower guy, Brissett, camp starts. Oh my God, what are you talking about? Zach is winning the competition. He's the starter. Oh my God, right? We're throwing tomatoes. We're freaking out. Then he comes in and he's good. As crazy and unlikely a situation that is, it's the best situation. There's nothing better that could happen to our organization than for Zach to work out. The question is that really realistic? I don't know because, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. I'm just going to say it's highly unlikely based on the past. Yes, players have started off their career horribly and turned out fine. But statistically, percentage-wise, it doesn't happen that often. You want better odds that we found the quarterback of our future. You hope that they flash a lot more in their first and second years and show evidence of it. Unfortunately, we didn't get enough to really feel that way. But hey, man, I wish it would happen. I really do. I'll never stop wishing it would happen because as long as he's on the team, the best thing that can happen for us is that it happens. That he's that crazy story, right? But you're not going to find a lot of people in here that are going to buy it. Carr can at least give this team 30 touchdowns a year. That's true. No one could argue that. And he can give us 4,000 yards passing. You know what I hate when people say, no, I don't think they care about him being cheaper, Micro. I think they would just rather have him. Like if they're going to pay $40 million to a quarterback, I think they'd rather pay Tom Brady because I think they think he's better than Derek Carr. What was I talking about? I was responding to something else. And I forgot. Oh, 4,000 yards. I hear this a lot. Well, he's on this team, and that's why he throws for 4,000 yards. They pass a lot. They do this. He has these players, blah, 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 blah. Guys, I've been alive for 52 years. I've been a fan for 41 of them. And I've never seen a New York Jet quarterback throw for 4,000 yards in a season. It's happened once, and that guy's name was Joe Namath, and that was a freaking lifetime ago. No offense, Twisted or Thomas Cahill, but only the old people remember that. All right? So none of us young people even know what it's like to watch a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards, which leads me to believe that regardless of the situation, throwing for 4,000 yards in a season is not easy. I'm not saying it makes you a Super Bowl quarterback. I'm not saying that. But we cannot continue to pretend that throwing for 4,000 yards in a season is not a big deal. It's a big deal. Because Ken O'Brien didn't do it. The guy who used to battle Dan Marino and air it out against them never was able to do it. Another guy we love, Vinny Testaverde, with Parcells, never able to do it. We were a running team. I get it. Still didn't do it. Chad Pennington, the years before he got hurt that year, remember we slammed Indianapolis in the playoff game, 41-0. Guess what? He never threw for 4,000 yards in a season for the Jets. And I know there's reasons too it didn't happen. Brett Favre was a Jet, but he got hurt. Would he have thrown 4,000 that year if I checked the stat book? Probably. I'm sure that I would do the math and say, oh, yeah, he was on pace to do it. The point is, staying healthy is part of it. We have never been able to find a quarterback since Joe Namath's one season in 55, 56 years of whatever it is as a franchise since we changed our name from the Titans. One season with a quarterback that's thrown over 4,000 yards. One season. So don't tell me it doesn't mean anything. It means something. I'm not saying that means Derek Carr's going to win us a Super Bowl. I'm not saying that means we should run out and get him. I'm not saying that means he's the answer alone. I understand you could throw for 4,000 yards and throw 15 interceptions or 14 interceptions and give people the jitters and believe that you're not the guy. I get it. But don't tell me that yards don't matter. I'm not saying that it matters above everything else and you ignore everything else. But don't tell me it doesn't matter. Of course it matters. We've never had anybody do it except Joe Namath. So don't tell me it's not an easy thing to do. No matter how many different offenses we've had over the years, no matter what we've done as a team, we've never had an offense that has a quarterback that can throw over 4,000 yards. And I don't know why it's so important to me, but it's become very important to me. It's become very important. So if you're going to argue against or for Derek Carr, that's great. I'm in the middle on it. I don't think anybody's stupid. I respect everybody's take on both sides. Derek Carr, yes. Derek Carr, no. Fine. But nobody argued that it doesn't matter that he went 4 seasons in a row with over 4,000 yards, with multiple coaches, multiple schemes, multiple players, multiple controversy. Don't tell me it doesn't matter. It matters. It's an accomplishment. If it was your son or your family member that was named Derek Carr or named his name, putting up those stats, you'd be proud of it, and you'd spit in the face of anybody that told you that 4,000 yards 4 years in a row doesn't matter. It matters. It matters. It's not easy. It's an amazing accomplishment. How many people in the world alive right now could say they've done it? How many that are playing football can say they've thrown 4,000 yards 4 years in a row in the NFL? How many right now? You're going to go check Tom Brady. He's done it. Aaron Rodgers has done it. Patrick Mahomes. You're going to check the guys who've done it? You're not going to find that many. There's not that many guys. Even if you say, oh, but Jeremy, there's 15 guys that have done it. Okay, 15 guys. You know how many people are in the world? You know how long football's been played? And I don't care about the other teams in the rest of the NFL. For the Jets, I don't know the exact since they became the Jets. So the Super Bowl was in 69. I think the Super Bowl one was 67. I think they became the Jets, in 65? I mean, so what is it, 55, 56 years? 56 years we've done it once. And we haven't done it in, we haven't done it in over 50 years. Have a quarterback throw over 4,000 yards. So don't tell me it doesn't matter. It matters. It matters at least in the column of when you do positive and negatives. It's not as simple as, do you think Robert Saleh and JD sit in the room, they go through the list of quarterbacks? Jimmy G, yes or no? Derek Carr, yes or no? Or this, how about this? Derek Carr, trash. Do you think that's what the meeting is like? Or are they looking at stats? Are they looking at film? Right? So you have to, there's pros and cons. When you make a decision to buy something, pros and cons. There's no such thing as 100% cons. And you're saying there's nothing good. And there's no such thing about all good and nothing bad. We got to be rational. We got to look at both sides. What are the pros and what are the cons? Throwing for 4,000 yards 4 years in a row is a pro. Throwing tons of interceptions, as many interceptions as he's thrown, is a con. Okay? Then you could start looking at the average yards per pass. You could look at that he checks down a lot, that he does this, that he does that. Okay, fine. But you can't sit there and be so against somebody that you're going to ignore the pros. Am I making any sense? I mean, we're fighting Mike LaFleur, and I'm sitting here talking about Derek Carr. I don't know. And it's a guy that I don't even mean to sound like I'm fighting for him, because I'm not. I'm so lost on quarterback right now. I don't know. I've lost all my confidence to make any predictions for quarterbacks because I thought Zach Wilson was going to be great. I thought he was going to be great. Okay. I had a couple sips of bourbon one night, and I went online and I started talking about 40 touchdowns. I started talking about 4,500 yards. And Frankie from Flatbush and Green Bean are never going to let me forget it, because I put that out there in social media. And I own it. I did it. I thought the kid was going to be amazing. So now, please excuse me if I refrain from making any big quarterback predictions, because what I found out and discovered is I don't know much about quarterbacks. I mean, I do know that Derek Carr has done some things in the NFL and Jimmy G has done some things in the NFL. So I know there's a certain level of competency that they have. They have a certain level of competency. Are they the right guys, though? Is it the right decision? I don't know. I just know that I cannot imagine that with this talent that we got and this opportunity that we got with our defense looking as good as it does, that we can actually go into the next season with the same quarterback room. That is unfathomable. That cannot happen. We were sitting there juggling which of the horrible are we going to spit out there? An injured Mike White, a statue in Joe Flacco, or Zach Wilson, a guy that every time comes out there, we root for hell like him, and he shows flashes where he can be amazing, and then he throws an interception right into the arms of a safety or a linebacker. It's maddening. And then the guy who played the best probably in his limited opportunity was a guy named Streveler. And playing his best, I mean, take that with a grain of salt, because he kind of underthrew a play that he got credit for. 12-yard gain was actually a lost opportunity for a touchdown, because the tight, if he just threw it to the guy, I mean, the guy wasn't being covered. If he just would have thrown it to him and reached him, that was a touchdown. So his best play as a quarterback, Streveler, was a blown touchdown. But it was exciting. It was fun to watch him play. No one could argue that. It was fun. For a second there, I thought we actually had a chance in that game. Beth Page, Chris. Christmas come early. I knew you'd be happy. Is Mo in here? I see people saying funny, Mo. That means Mo Dean must be in here. Probably insulting the hell out of me, right? Oh no, he's insulting the team, not me. That's a change. Okay. Yes, he not very confident. Finger Lakes, what's going on, man? Everybody's talking to Modine. He really pushes everyone's buttons, doesn't he? He knows how to engage the chat. I'll give him that. He gets people talking. Just wish he'd stop throwing attacks at me. We need a cheap option at quarterback. We have a Hulk to pay. I know who you're talking about. And that Hulk is named Quinnen Williams. And it's true. We have to sign Quinnen Williams So that's got to be factored in. Whatever we do, we whatever we do, we have to extend Quinn Williams. I don't think there's any argument anymore, because I'd be very worried if our organization doesn't understand that. If Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas don't understand how important Quinn Williams is, they'd be the only two people in this country that don't understand it. I mean, that's the one thing Jet fans don't argue about, Quinn Williams. Right? Can you imagine a Jet fan that comes out and says, Quinn Williams, we should let him go, he's not worth the money? Be crazy. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I do. He had a good life, guys. 13 years. That's what keeps me going, because I know he had a great life. Was Reich hired in Carolina? Oh, I know he interviewed there. They showed that he interviewed. Not going to surprise me. He's a guy that gets a second chance because he was fired by an owner who fired him because he wanted a yes man. Frank Reich was told to bench his quarterback when they were 3-5-1 in a division where you only had to be 9-8 to make the playoffs. I mean, the best thing to ever happen to Frank Reich was he got out of that hellhole and away from that owner. That owner hired Jeff Saturday, and whoever he hires next is going to be a yes man. You're not going to see him go out. You're not going to see the Colts get a strong coach, a proven coach, a coach worth anything that's proven. You're going to get he does just what Jerry Jones does for Dallas, or Jerry Jones did for years after he got rid of Johnson. You're going to see him come out, and you're going to see him hire a coach that's a yes man, because the owner of the Indianapolis Colts wants to be a general manager / coach, and he wants to make all the decisions because he believes that because he's rich, somehow that makes him smarter than everybody else in football. Levi's and Hooker are the best quarterbacks in this draft. Well, the problem with Hooker, he's going to be on Social Security before he's actually able to play in a game. I don't know much about Lewis. But I trust you, Joe. You were right about Zach. So you have more right to talk about quarterbacks than I do, my friend. Because you were right and I was wrong. I was going to be like the Fonz. Well, it's not completely a lie. It's a lie if you want to make it a lie for the immediate 3 or 4 years ahead. So you could screw with the cap and you could make it a lie and do whatever you want. But Anthony, it will catch up to you, and it does catch up to you, because at some point you can keep pushing it back, but that dead cap money will build year after year, and eventually it's going to force you to. It'll get so big that you can't push it back anymore, because the dead cap has to be even pushing it back and dividing it by 4, that'll add up, and eventually you'll have so much money in dead cap because it'll be 15 different players. So it's real, but if you want to do what the Rams did or what the Saints try to do, I don't know why they waited for Drew Brees to retire and then they try to do it. But if you want to do what the Rams did, you can. But I think that's something you do when your team is ready. Like if we make these 3 moves, we believe we're going to win the Super Bowl. And we're willing to gamble everything on it, meaning the future. And then you do those 3 things. You trade everyone. You screw up your salary structure. And then over the next couple of years, it's going to be bloody. You're going to have to and they don't have picks. So the Rams are going to have to clean house, and they're not going to have picks, and they're going to stink. They're going to stink. That's why that coach is running right now for that broadcasting job. Watch. That guy's not coming back to the Rams. He's running because now it's payback. Time to pay the piper. Time to have no draft picks and no money. That's what's going to happen. I'm telling you, it's going to be ugly in Los Angeles. It's going to be very, very ugly for them. I don't want that. I don't want to take one shot at it. I don't want to take one big throw at it. We have all these good young players. I want to be like Baltimore and Pittsburgh and Green Bay and dare I say it, like New England. I want to be a team that I want to have a good 10 years, 12 years where every year we have a chance. That's what I want. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Every year we have a chance, and then eventually it happens. Baltimore got one. They were in one. Pittsburgh's gotten a few over the years spread out. The Giants used to be like that, and they ended up getting a couple. So it works. Going for it by just hiring a bunch of big guns all in one year has never worked in my life. That's why I've never seen the Jets win a Super Bowl, because it's never worked. We were on the right track when we got Rex and we had that team, but then we got rid of the GM and Rex couldn't keep adding talent. But we were on the right track. It was a great team in 2009, 10. We had a lot of players. Yeah. Corey will probably get cut. Lawson will probably get an extended restructured contract. Doubt they both get cut. Yeah, I agree with this. I think that I think the reason I think you're right about I think you're right on all accounts here. I think that the reason Lawson will restructure is because I don't think he's going to get offered so much more anywhere else. I think he really likes the Jets. I think he finds I really get that feeling from him. Corey Davis, I think the reason he gets cut and we can't restructure is because someone will pay him $12 million, around that, and they'll give him a new contract. And I think that way because of the wide receiver market, the way it is. So I think you're just spot on with how that's gonna pan out. Beth Page, Chris, here's to not giving up on third down anymore. Oh man, right? How many games? You're always there with us, right? How many times on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 9? The 4-yard pass to Conklin or Ty Johnson. It's painful, man. I don't remember how many times we did it. Not even a look, too. It felt like we didn't even try. Like, it wasn't like, we were looking and running and then dumped it off at the last second. It was literally snap the ball and throw a 4-yard pass. Like, what are you doing? We're at the 50-yard line. You're going to kill the drive. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But thank you for the super chat, my friend. I appreciate it. I appreciate the super chat very much. I'm actually trying to make a big move this year. So the super chats help. Saving up all that money. And I'm going to make a studio move to a different part of the house, but it's going to be investing in new equipment and stuff. It's a whole big project. I feel like I'm Green Bean. I'm going to build a studio for myself, man. Anyway, I hope it's worth it all, but I want to increase and improve the production of this show and the videos. Forget the quarterback, get Aaron Darnold and put him next to Q. Wouldn't that be something, right? Wouldn't that be something? We can't afford him. Well, I guess if you forget quarterback. Mangini, huh? Was it Mangini? Was he making all the moves for those years too? I always thought he was an okay coach. I don't know why he gave up coaching. I guess he had 2 opportunities. He had Cleveland and the Jets, so I guess you only get 2 chances. Kind of weird. Unless you're Norv Turner, then you get to suck, and you get any amount of you get a million chances if your name is Norv Turner. Never understood that, but it's true. I don't know about that, bro. I love the kid, but he'll be much better if he has great coordinators. Not just him, but like we'll win a Super Bowl possibly. I'm telling you, Breece Hall is it's so funny. I hope he comes back 100% because before that injury, I was convinced, and I still believe, 100% healthy Breece Hall is like it's like Travis Henry or whatever, or like it's Adrian Peterson. It's like franchise altering running back, like changes everything. Like when the Jets come into the stadium, the defense, all they're thinking about on the other side all week long, all they're scheming for is how do we stop the running back? Do you know how awesome it is to have that? Especially when your team is not only built around that, when you actually have a Garrett Wilson, when you're developing a Jeremy Ruckert, when you're developing, it's. I mean, right now the sad thing is, as I'm saying it, is we kind of are. If Breece Hall is healthy, just Breece Hall, except for Garrett Wilson. But we need a quarterback that can get him the ball. I haven't given up on Elijah Moore, but if we get a new coordinator, a better offensive line and a new quarterback, and Elijah Moore doesn't explode, and he has just another year, if he only has 30, 40 receptions for 600 yards, that's it, guys. Then it wasn't LaFleur, it wasn't Zach, it wasn't anything. Then it's just Elijah Moore is just not the guy. But if we get a new quarterback, New coordinator. The offensive line is healed up, and we patch it up a little, make it a better offensive line. Garrett's doing well, and the rest of the offense is doing well. Elijah better step up. I love him. I got his jersey. He's my boy, but he's got to show it year 3. How long do you give a wide receiver? There's no more excuses. Now, if we come out with Zach or Mike White as our quarterback and the offensive line still stinks, then it's hard to judge Elijah Moore, especially if they're looking to Garrett Wilson first every play. Yeah, this is the guy. I agree. I would be very, very cool with them bringing Gary Kubiak. Very cool with it. Just pay the guy money. Pay him whatever he wants. Just give him tons of money. That's it. Tons of money. The offense is yours. Robert Saleh doesn't know jack. Just take over the offense. Just do it, man. Make it happen. Tell us who you want at quarterback. There's a bunch of guys out there. Tell us who you like. Tell us what price it's worth and why it's the right move. We go out and we do it. Okay, let's go. Oh, Tony Alexio, another super chat. What's up, brother? Is Mayfield a better option than Cooper Rush? I think so. I mean, I wouldn't. Again, I'm no longer. I've lost my right to act like I know anything about quarterback until I redeem myself one day. But I will tell you my opinion. My opinion is yes. My opinion is Mayfield has a lot more snaps and reps and has done a lot more. I think Cooper Rush, they played a very, very safe, simplified, boring offense. They were just talking about it today. I forgot if it was ESPN or the NFL Network. They were just talking about it because Sean Johnson, former Jet draft pick, former Jet, was talking about it. He was actually criticizing Dallas for saying, why don't they just go back to playing boring football like they did for Cooper Rush? How come because Dak came back, you changed the offense, but it was working. They were winning with Cooper Rush. I don't know if it was Cooper Rush, but Keyshawn Johnson was saying it wasn't Cooper Rush. It was just playing boring football. But you know what that means? When we say play boring football, to me, that's become, because I'm a Jet fan the last year and I've watched this transpire. To me, boring football is play football that your limited quarterback can win in. Like, in other words, play a version of football that you can win with a limited quarterback. That's what boring football has come to mean to me. So you might be saying, no crap, Chaos, we've known that forever. Well, for me, it's a new concept. When you have to play boring football, it's because you don't have a very good quarterback. Look, I don't think Mayfield's going to leave the Rams because this guy unless the coach leaves, because this coach is saving his career. But I do believe that Baker Mayfield, while I'm not doing jumping jacks and saying that's the answer for us, I do believe he's better than Cooper Rush. And I do believe he got a bad deal, a raw deal. I do believe Baker Mayfield is not the trash that he's being treated like he is. I don't. I before he was injured all last year, he brought Cleveland to the playoffs. No, my whole life I don't remember, since Bernie Kosar, it's hard to remember a quarterback doing that. So I don't know. McVay will take a timeout. The Rams are for the next 10 years. Yeah, well, I mean, but the problem is McKay's going to get swept into a much better life. You know, Amazon Prime is offering him like ridiculous money, millions, like $20 million a year, to just sit every week to call a football game. I mean, how are you not going to take that? You've seen his house on Hard Knocks. Got that big house, that beautiful wife, gorgeous wife. Like, wouldn't you just take that job and get to be home and enjoy your house and travel the world? And then for 17 Sundays or whatever it is, and some study time to know the league. I mean, you're passionate about the league anyway. It's not like he's not going to know everything and study everything, but just call a game every week. But it's true. I don't know if it's been confirmed, but it's going around out there that Amazon, that they're all fighting for him, and that the Amazon Prime offer him $20 million a year to commentate the games. Can you imagine? What better job is there than that? Time to do a shot every time. I'll get the hot sauce going again. Don't worry. Yeah, look, I mean, when you have a running back that's very special, you see, because the thing is I know he's fired. Like, he's fired. He's not the guy. I'm not arguing what they did. He's a horrible situational play caller, in my opinion, but he's not trash. He's a very smart coach. He understands football very well. He understands X's and O's very well. He's not trash. And I have no doubt that in a perfect world, with a healthy offensive line and a healthy Brees Hall, I have no doubt that Zach Wilson could have looked better, and that definitely Mike LaFleur looks better. But the test of a coordinator or any coach is adversity. Injuries happen. And we needed LaFleur to be good enough to score a touchdown in one of those two games, and he just couldn't do it. He just couldn't get his touchdown. And I know there's excuses. The offensive line was decimated. The quarterbacks aren't good. But Brees Hall is hurt. But we didn't ask for a miracle. We asked for one freaking touchdown. We couldn't get one. Sorry, guys. Let me just tell her what's going on here. See what she wants. All right. So I'm trying to get to your opinions now because I'm all opinionated out. So someone say something. Nathan's got an opinion on Mayfield's a below average starter, better than what we had. Okay. But still a no for me. Yeah. It's funny. I like that. I like that, Nathan. I like that kind of like the attitude of like, look, we could look, two things could be true. It could be better for us. Like it's an upgrade to what we have, but not good enough for what we really want. Right. Not the answer we're really looking for, but better than what we have. And there's a lot of guys that fit that description. A lot of guys. The red zone mess. Yeah, I know. It's really hard to explain it. It's really hard to like really, especially because it wasn't like they weren't executing and it was like frustrating and we threw an interception or something like that. But it was like literally like we were all looking at each other like, what the hell are they doing? Like the play calling was atrocious. You just can't ignore things like that. Guys, I'm going to have to go. It's almost 5:00 and I'm going to be back on at 7 anyway. So, just see if there's anything here. Make sure I'm not missing any super chats. Exactly. It was only two nice numbers and got the Browns deep into the playoffs for the first time ever. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm saying. And don't forget, the next year he was beat up and he was playing injured. And then they stripped him of all his confidence. You know what I mean? They beat up on him pretty bad. So they told him, we don't want you. We're going to trade for somebody else. I mean, it was kind of a crappy thing that they did to him in Cleveland. Sneakers to boots, man. I haven't seen you forever. What's up, my friend? If you know what we're doing when we constantly run more or bury us in motion after 7 beers, then there's an issue. Some of you like Jacoby Brissett. The real Ruck is saying, oh my God, no Baker. Oh my God. So is David. No, Baker, not Baker. They don't like Baker. Okay. Look, I don't like any of this, guys. Believe me, I don't like any of it. I wanted to be Zach, but I wanted us to be able to pick the right guy, but we didn't pick right. Or I don't know, maybe it'll be him, but it certainly hasn't worked out so far. Are you back at 7? Yeah, I'm back at 7, which is why I have to go. I hate ending the chat now, man. We have a great show right now going. Tons of you. I rate the show by you. If there's a lot of you out there, it's a great show. So Baker would get chewed out in space. Hey, it's good to see you, Sneakers to Boots. Just want to say that. Shout out to you, man. It's good to see you. I don't know who goes on at 5. Somebody must be going on right now, but I got to go anyway. I got the other show to prepare for tonight. I'll be back on at 7 p.m. right on this channel. Jets Chaos. Just wanted to come on and share the reaction with you. Just share the moment. And I want to thank so many of you for joining me for it. Like I really didn't expect so many people to be here. So I think we had like 130 people here in the chat. For a lot of people that have been with me from the beginning, and it feels like just yesterday, that's shocking because there was a time where there was just 8 of us in here. So, and Jets Mess, Sneakers to Boots, these were some of the OGs, the guys that have been here from the beginning. So I'm excited that they're here. Even Modine, I got to say, Modine, you've been here since the beginning, man. You were here when I started the channel and had nobody in the chat. So I appreciate that. A lot of you guys, Anthony G, Twisted, you might not have been here in the beginning, but you've been such a good friend, man. So I appreciate you, Twisted. Thank you so much for your support. Nathan Colgrove, you've been here forever. Thanks, man. Thanks to the newer people. Joe Pakulik, I love you. Thanks, Steve Gillingham. Thanks for being here. Ohio Jets fan, New York Jets, Florida, Nuts on the Jets, all you guys. Thank you, Mr. Green Jeans. Thanks for being around lately and coming and joining and supporting the channel. Finger Lakes. A lot of guys. John Hepburn, you've been here forever, man. Brian J, BC, Sean Bennett. Love you guys, man. Thanks to all of you. I appreciate it. And Nick Russo. I mean, so many of you, man. I'm sorry to anybody I'm missing. Vinny and the Jets. There's so many of you. Minnesota Jets fan. Just want to make sure that everybody knows I'm looking. I can't read all the chats. I can't highlight them all, but I'm seeing you out there. Matthew Frank, all of you guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you at 7 for those of you that are able to join. 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific. I'll be back then. Thank you so much, and I'll leave you with this. I would regret it if people look back at the first episode and you weren't on it.
Yeah, well, I like that. It's called forward thinking.
We have one of the worst beats in the world. We do. Our beat is horrible.
Connor could shove that article up his ass.
And then I went to that game, and I was like, this is the greatest team I've ever seen in my life. I'm a Jet fan. This is going to be the greatest run ever. Yeah.
No, because if they take Aquanu, I'm not complaining.
Joe Douglas is the king of keeping shit close to the vest.
A 2, a 4, and a 6 for Darnold?
Did the Jets really ruin Sam Darnold, or did Sam Darnold just suck all along and we were just trying to talk ourselves into it?
And Hamilton is a player who can potentially make a very big impact.
And suddenly here we are today. You can't get rid of him.
Right. It's like a plague.
Joe Douglas was hired because he's not those general managers.
Okay, Luscious.
Somebody is going to fall just like Elijah Moore did, just like Michael Carter did.
You know, what would, if you had one sentence to say to Joe Douglas, what would you say? So you would say, you had me at hello, and then give him a big old wet one right on the smack.